had that redesigned. We are actually will be removing that one at Timberline and also at Quicksilver and installing storm drain line to take care of that to take care of that bump or dip, if you will. So this is just part of the approved budget from last year. We're finally able to get to it and get it moving forward. We went out for bid and we are ready to recommend approval with Lyndon Jones Construction.
Okay. Perfect. Questions?
So this was an existing storm drain that you're improving, or?
It's the storm drain system. We're removing two waterways and putting in a stormwater underground to
We
get
have
rid
a
of the
few.
dips,
They're just
the waterway
steep.
dips.
Uh-huh.
Oh, if you've driven up that trail,
Well, I
it was, yeah, you can bottom out, or
Oh,
a
okay.
Corvette can't make it up that road.
And
Unless,
if I may add, some of the property owners asked me to go up there and meet with them and review this a couple of years ago. And yeah, there's a lot of scraping that occurs on cars because of.
well,
that.
there's another one that we've
Change.
got in this
You-
budget year
You
for
just approved one for this budget year and I forget the name of it, but it's.
same thing. You get trucks that'll get stuck. from
Correct.
whatever.
We've got a few of these. I say a few, we've got
We
more
fixed
than
a few,
30.
over,
So
but,
we're working on them.
How soon would this group get started now?
As soon as we sign the contract, we'll get the notice to proceed. As soon as they're able to get the their insurance and bonding in place, and with the notice to proceed, they'll start next couple of weeks.
Do we know how long it's gonna take?
I think it's a 60-day contract.
Perfect. Okay, and then we'll approve the consent calendar tonight from our previous meetings. So let's go back to our staff reports, which is item 3. Our first item is going to be a general plan discussion. If you remember, we kind of put this on hold for a bit. We kind of done some community meetings and had some discussions, and we even had a joint discussion with the planning commission and the council. And we've had some things going on and some busy periods of time. So we kind of put things on hold, but it's time to renew this and to start this discussion again. So we're gonna have our community and economic development director, Mike Johnson, kind of give us an update where we are, what we want to accomplish in the next little bit. And anyway, turn the time over to you, Mike.
Thank you, Mayor. Some of this is actually right from the last presentation, which was 6-7 months ago now, back in December. But I think it's a good refresher. Like you said, we had the Hillside Plaza project, and that will continue to go on with the town center master plan that we're doing there. The form-based code process has started, and in a way, these all tie in really well to the general plan process. So, in a backdoor kind of way, we are working on implementation of the general plan without actually working on the general plan. But let me bring you up to speed. Previous council discussion on the general plan was December 2022. The focus of this discussion was on land use and housing and how the city approaches and plans for growth, ways to meet housing needs of various populations and residents, and kind of tying in transportation and water management and sustainability and all the other elements that are important in the general plan into this approach of how do we want our city to grow and change and develop. The recommendations that came out of that discussion were I've got the bullet list here, but in summary, were to utilize existing master plans and build on those to create a vision for land use and growth and development into the future of the city. And I highlighted that because I do want to come back to this idea of utilizing existing master plans, where this is kind of the foundation of how we're preparing our recommendations. It's really important that we review all of those master plans again and make sure we're familiar with them and agree with everything they're saying. And if there's things we want to tweak or adjust or change, now really is the time to do that as we implement them into this next version of the general plan.
You said change things. Are you talking about making alterations to existing plans if we find discrepancies, or?
No, I think we wouldn't go back and amend previous plans, but as the recommendations in those plans become recommendations in the general plan, we want to just make sure that what's coming out of those plans and into the general plan is something that is still a community priority, something we still agree with. And I'm not thinking wholesale changes to the plans, but.
Oh, I wouldn't think so either, but is there verbiage that says this supersedes blah, 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 that, or?
It's slightly different because an area master plan is a smaller area of focus. So again, you wouldn't be, if there was 3 broad goals in an area master plan, you're not going to completely change what those goals are as you put them in the general plan. But how you implement them in the general plan, maybe you have a specific vision for how to achieve that goal that was not as well defined in the area master plan, that you want to make sure, the essence of that is covered in the general plan. It's just kind of calibrating what's in the master plans to make sense in the general plan for where we are today.
May I ask a clarifying question?
Sure.
So obviously the Fort Union Boulevard Master Plan, I believe that was from 2017.
Mhm.
And then the Fort Union Corridor Study and Fort Union Visioning Study, is that a completely different?
Yeah, those weren't master plans. Those preceded the actual corridor master plan, but we had some public input. I know we had some university classes help out with public engagement and gathering information. So those are separate studies. They're not adopted plans, but there are still, ideas in those that would tie into the Fort Union master plan and the
And
general
what
plan.
years were those completed?
That's a good question. I don't know off the top
But they
of my
were
head,
prior to 2017. And
I
maybe,
believe so.
Tim, did you supply me? I know you gave me something that was but I thought it was from 2019. So I'd like to
With the Fort
review,
Union-
I'd like to review these, because I don't know that I'm familiar with.
Yeah, that's
the
fine. And
Fort
I
Union
can show
Corridor
you.
Study or the Fort Union Visioning Study. I'd love to see the research. Because then the steering committee in 2017 that produced what was then adopted as the Fort Union Boulevard Master Plan, they utilized these 2 studies, right?
Partly, yeah. So
Partly.
that was part of it. And a lot of them were involved in those studies, and then it just led into the master plan. So it's all good, relevant information.
And so is that something you could, is that on the,
Yeah, and I
On
can
the
show you at the end of
website
this
or-
where to find that information.
oh, super, thank you.
The other recommendations that came out of that discussion in December 2022 were to identify context-sensitive ways to guide redevelopment. The whole way we explain this, as this principle of smart growth is when we look at future land use and zoning designations, I think the example we always used was the mixed use zoning type. The Canyon Center development is mixed use, but so are the townhomes that are across from Mount View Park. It's the same code that applied to both of those properties, and yet the context of both of those development sites is very different.
Yeah.
So one of the goals of this general plan is to identify tools that the city can use and develop to be able to acknowledge, hey, what works, even as a mixed use development in this area of the city might be different than what works over here. And we want to develop tools that are sensitive to that. So what we find in the gravel pit versus town center versus a random parcel along Fort Union Boulevard really makes sense, given the context of that area.
Because they were both those were zone mixed use, so they fell under the same thing.
Yeah,
But maybe there's a size constraint, because that's the big one. You've got 11 acres or so at Canyon Center and just a couple down
Yeah.
at those other 2
Yeah.
places.
yeah, and with different.
And mixed use allows for just residential use.
There's some light mixed use in there, but a home office is considered mixed use per our code. So yeah.
Alright. Well, maybe
Did
that-
we 100% copy all of our zones from the county?
I don't know if it was
Initially,
100%.
yes, but we changed them.
And I know they have been amended over time. I don't
Yeah.
know where mixed use
When-
started and
When we did the general plan, we went through those we consolidated a lot. But honestly, you're right, mixed use. Honestly, yeah, it's something we
The
should
point of the
definitely
question
look.
is, do we need to look at, whether or not they still need some updates possibly?
They fit or not.
yeah, certainly. And that's what we're trying to identify in this process is, hey, is mixed use okay? We have our
We've added
form-based code
residential office,
that's coming
which
in.
might be
So
better
form-based
fit
code will
some
help with
places.
some of that
Mhm.
because form-based code can be context sensitive. We can say, hey, these standards apply over here, but these other standards apply over here. And it depends on the size of your property and what's adjacent to you and that kind of
So
thing.
we put a lower or a size limit on PUDs. They can't just go down to a half acre. They've got
Yeah.
to be, if you're below this,
And if I may add, typically after your general plan is adopted, then you follow that up over the next couple of years with zoning ordinance modifications to get
Fit
them
the
to-
master plan.
Yeah, fit the
Yeah.
master plan. So
Yeah.
that's kind of the second element of after a general. plan's
Hopefully
adopted.
soon enough, so the council doesn't forget what they meant.
Yeah,
Right.
right. So this second bullet point here is, it's one sentence, but this is big. So distilling this into a chapter in a general plan, that takes some time and some effort and some nuance. So that's a big point of emphasis that we'll be working on here. The last one was identify a range of options to provide affordable and attainable housing. Again, an easy thing to say and a hard thing to actually, implement as everyone in Utah knows, and even beyond Utah. But the kind of recommendations that came away were multiple housing types. We're not just looking at where can we fit, market rate rental apartment units. Certainly there can be a need or a location for that type of use, but that's not what we're necessarily planning on when we say we need to provide affordable housing, and that's not even always affordable. We want to look at different housing types for individuals, for families, rental products, ownership products, and then identifying again areas where those can be implemented without overburdening any one area of the city with a lot of new intense development.
Yeah.
So we've identified, we're working to identify multiple implementation tools, avoiding overdevelopment, and again, being sensitive to multiple housing types and needs. And we've heard that a lot from the public of, hey, there are apartment rental options in the city. There are market rate ownership options in the city. There's not a lot of this term missing middle housing where it's maybe it's a twin home or a more modest single family home that can house a family and not just a young couple or a single individual.
So,
I recently got an inquiry from a not quite yet doctor, I don't know, if it was a resident or doing some sort of a fellowship, married 3 kids, looking for someplace around here that was just not, that would be a house. That would be a challenging lift.
Yeah.
But here, because of the proximity to where work and other things would be, and
Right.
so, finding that. I don't know.
I
That's why you get paid the big bucks, to come up with solutions. And
so when you list, and this that you're showing on the screen is not in my meeting packet.
This is the presentation that we made based on, the meeting packet's a summary of, hey, we're going to focus on these things. This is really from the December 2022 presentation, just a refresher.
Right, and so when you say multiple implementation tools, you're referring to possibly adding form-based code to the tools we have to achieve these.
Form-based code is already in.
Form-based code is funded as part of the general plan. We're moving forward with that. Certainly that helps address a lot of these overarching recommendations. So that is happening, but there are other things. ADUs are a tool. We already allow those, but that is a tool to provide a certain type of housing. And then we'll be looking at other tools as well. How do you incentivize affordable housing? How do we implement it better or quicker? So certainly form-based code is one tool. ADUs are a tool. There will be others.
Well, and I know we don't likely have the time to start getting into the discussion about the pros and cons of our strategy toward affordable housing in Cottonwood Heights. But something did occur for me just in the last 48 hours that really gave me pause. I know that with ADUs, whether they're external, I don't think with internal, it's treated the same. But for an external ADU, it would go through a building permitting process. Well, just again, in the last 48 hours with the upshot of Airbnbs, and you could say in a somewhat equivalent way to Airbnb products that people utilize, obviously mostly for short term, that in a similar way, this phenomena of the last, let's say 10 years with the Airbnb. So there was a disaster that happened actually to a family that I've known for a long time in Cottonwood Heights. They now live in Lehigh, but their daughter Olive was in an Airbnb and a large mirror fell off the wall and shattered on top of this little 4-year-old girl and has permanently disfigured her face. And what snapped in my mind was, you know, as we do all these, we society is trying all these different things to accommodate people's desires, whether it's for short-term rentals or ADUs to have affordable housing. The level of oversight is questionable somewhat. Like if I want to rent, so I build something in my backyard, unlike an apartment complex where the landlord is held to very stringent requirements. This disaster that happened to a family friend, it made me think to myself, wow, with ADUs, these are well-meaning people, just like I'm sure the people from the Airbnb product. So anyways, I just am laying it on the table for the council and to consider that there could be advantages to doing some conventional multifamily housing along Fort Union where it's a transit route, you know, where it provides for more, I don't know if oversight is the word I want, but you know, more stringent city regulatory measures. Does that make any sense, Mike?
It does, yeah. And I think once you have an idea, a concept, hey, ADUs could be one tool. How you implement that is very important. You license it, you do an inspection, you make sure it meets code. You know, you try to build those things into it, and certainly our code today does have those things. But certainly, yeah, you can look at, you know, multifamily housing, like you said. A lot of these approaches will have permitting and licensing requirements to try to avoid exactly what you're saying.
Yeah, I mean, I just can never really think of an Airbnb in quite the same way, because again, I'm sure that there was good intentions, but I don't know how much statistically this is happening, but that it happened to the Cochimelios is a real concern to me. Anyways,
yeah,
thank you.
So certainly, yeah, you share the tool, and then you have a process for implementing the tool to make sure you're covering those concerns.
I have one question. Shane, you may want to listen to this, because, and I don't want anybody to get on my, think I'm trying to be. It was one of the issues, it seems, and this is again, it seems, I don't want Verbo and Airbnb kicked off at me at the same time. I want to be realistic. There are a lot of them, and that you can make a lot of money by renting out a house on a short-term basis. Cause problems, not, we've had some success, not, so I guess the question is there some way, or could there be some way we would look at, if you, for example, have, pick a number, 3, 5, 10, whatever it is, short-term rentals in the city, that you, maybe part of the licensing fee, that we can use that to supplement some other type of a affordable housing unit. I don't know, that's somewhere from that. If they're displacing some of the housing stock type that we would like, can we then find a way to possibly generate some income to provide the housing stock
So
ourselves?
your income would be through TRT, through short-term rentals, but even TRT is limited in what you can spend it on.
Mhm.
So the fee that you're talking about would probably be a new fee that would be
Business licensing
assessed.
could be,
And
but
the
I don't
other
know that
thing
it'd be
with TRT is the state spent right now, VRBO and Airbnb, they remit tax to the state tax commission in a lump sum.
Mhm.
They do not itemize which household is providing that revenue like hotels do. And I know there's legislation to try to fix that, to make sure that localities know, okay, I have 300 of these, I only see 200 actually paying TRT. But there's that thought, a lot of communities are debating this right now. We know that it's happening. Do we allow it so we can start capturing revenue from it? But then the TRT statutorily is limited to what you can spend that money on. Sorry, Tim, what were you going to say?
Well, just, and Shane can add to this, but my understanding, when you implement fees, you have to do a study, and that's what we do with our fees. And it's not based on profit elements, it's on what your cost is. And there's pretty strict standards related to that.
Oh, that's right.
And in addition to that, we get audited occasionally from the state on our fees. And so Shane, you can add to that.
Yeah, and I agree with you, Tim, but I also understand what Council Member Holton is saying, that being able to impose, in essence, a type of transient room tax on short-term rentals, that doesn't have to be a recapture of our costs, we can make a profit on it, and then we can
Exactly.
repurpose the profit to, something that.
Well, maybe that might be a suggested legislative
But
action. Maybe
that's gonna be legislative.
You
things.
change the TRT a little bit to say,
Yeah.
this is a way you could support some affordable housing if you allow affordable housing to be one of the.
You
uses.
could, and you'd get UTIA and some of these other groups that would fight against that, but you could actually make that argument. I know that Representative Musselman did push legislation forward. Ogden City was wanting to add a tax on hotels to help pay for enforcement, because a lot of these cities are having enforcement problems with TRTs. Anyway, that's a whole, we can.
Sure.
go down a whole other
And
path.
I didn't bring it
idea,
up to make verbal and Airbnb mad at me. It was just an idea in context of this.
Well,
And we're certainly an area that has a lot of them.
Well, I very much favor your way of thinking on that, Councilman
Even if it's
Bracken.
illegal,
I
it's just
I
like-
think we need to realize we're in, we do realize it, and I think looking for avenues to not only protect ourselves, but to, provide, whether it's for the additional law enforcement and the other things that come along with this. I want to.
It's great input. I think we're all about thinking creatively, and this is exactly
Yeah.
the
We've had people
process
say
to
they'd
do
like
that.
their families to be able to live near.
Sure.
And the families are not just renters and grandma and grandpa.
Yeah.
You want to have a broad range.
We can try to keep moving here if that's okay.
Yes.
Our goal here is to have a full working draft, and then I just said public input opportunities. We can define what this looks like, whether it's district-specific working meetings, town hall meetings, or citywide meetings, or both. But we're shooting for fall 2023, and that hopefully will help us get some progress behind us with Hillside Plaza, finish out some of the large projects that we've been working on, and be able to really turn and focus directly on this general.
So
plan
we don't have to
process.
spend time on this bullet point, but I do want you to think about this, because the type of public input we had some complaints in the past. And so I would like your input and thought process in the next couple of meetings of what you think public input should look like to this process. So we don't, like I said, we don't need
I
to,
think district
into it
ones
now.
would be good, because when you start looking at maps.
Yeah.
People start looking at their own areas, and it's nice if they could be able to do that and have focused.
that's exactly what I'm
responses.
talking about. So let's put some thought into that, and then we'll regroup.
Sure, just as a general plan
Say
philosophy.
goodbye to your wife in August, it's here again in December or whenever it is.
It's all right, public input's great. This is the approach to the whole the general plan, not just the land use elements, but we're really focusing on approaching this effort from a neighborhood scale outward, rather than big ideas and let's try to cram them in and fit them. We understand the city, you all, understand your districts very well. We want to start at that scale. What's important to your constituents and the residents of the city, and then we have, broad policies and priorities that we need to implement, but how do we do that in a way that makes sense at that neighborhood scale? We want to maintain and improve the safety, viability, and connectivity of all transportation methods. This is a complete streets approach. Plan and develop policy to accommodate growth rather than react to it. We've talked about this a lot in the past. This is that context sensitive growth management. We're going to feel the impacts of growth no matter if we plan for it or not. So we might as well plan for it and accommodate it in a way that that doesn't overstress areas of the city or overburden any one particular area, and spread out the impact of that. Again, planning for affordable, attainable housing options, utilizing recommendations from existing master plans and community input, and then thoughtfully identifying key future redevelopment areas and ways to guide that. Form-based code is one of the tools that I listed here as a way to achieve that.
Is our definition of form-based code in our code different than others?
The idea of a form-based code is the same. Ours will look different than others because we are approaching it from what works best for Cottonwood Heights. So where other cities might put form-based code around a transit station or a downtown or something else, we're gearing ours towards a Fort Union Boulevard, these commercial centers along Fort Union, and then kind of building it out from there. This is all a little bit of the same thing. So I might just run through these quick and then we can go from there. But the kind of priorities as we start to fully draft out a land use element, and again, this will all just be a draft. This will be once we have a complete draft, that's the starting point, and then we get public input from there. Again, smart growth is the first bullet point there, affordable housing options. Establish a town center area with a strong community identity. Like I said at the beginning, we're already implementing this in a way by the city purchasing Hillside Plaza. We will have direct control over that element. Still, we've heard this, since the city became a city, of this desire to create a town center area. So we're going to leave it in the general plan. It's still an important thing to prioritize. Guide appropriate redevelopment of and accessibility to other smaller established centers to continue to meet local shopping and service needs. This is the idea of neighborhood scale commercial areas. Your areas like where you have, Smith's on Bengal Boulevard could be something we work with them, to develop a vision for the future, what that looks like moving forward. You've got the little pocket on 2700 East with the Bengal Mart and the Rooted Cafe. That could be a little neighborhood pocket center. We want to look at areas like that aren't big commercial areas demanding a ton of traffic from everywhere to come to them, but do benefit the neighborhood at an accessible scale. Planning for a dynamic transportation system that balances vehicles, transit, pedestrians, and active transportation. And we want to be mindful of policies that accommodate basically shifting consumer patterns, how we work, how we shop, how we recreate, how we get around. It's not the same as it was in 2005 when we prepared the last general plan. We want to make sure the recommendations in this general plan are sensitive to, the change in these trends. And as much as possible, try to predict how these things could continue changing, to avoid areas from becoming run down and needing revitalization. And then, as always, critical priority in the city is to embrace and protect the natural environment, views, open spaces, and natural resources. So as you can see, when we map this out, just generically, really our residential neighborhoods, in large part, are kind of what they are. And we want to ensure that we're reinvesting in those and making sure they don't become run down and outdated. But we're also not looking to make drastic changes in, from a landmass perspective, 80+% of the city is our residential neighborhoods. We want to maintain that. We implement things like, active transportation and trails and pedestrian networks and things like that in those areas, but we're not looking at any fundamental shifts in land use patterns in those areas. The yellow are kind of those little neighborhood scale, maybe redevelopment opportunities that we be mindful of. And then outside of that, it's the gravel pit. It's to an extent the office park on I-215. And then largely it's Fort Union Boulevard, which is why in the staff memo, we included a lot of references to Fort Union Boulevard studies, because a lot of the recommendations in the general plan for future growth and redevelopment will directly impact that corridor. Yeah, go ahead.
Sorry, before you go, one thing, obviously in my district that I'd love to see if there's any appetite for this. We know that there are property parcels for sale down in this area. And for all that live in this area, to have one of these little commercial centers, because this is a long walk for all of us to get up here. And it would be an interesting thing to consider the city.
Are you talking the ones on the east side of the road?
It's right by the condos are located right here, and then there's the nursery.
The tree farm.
Okay,
some acreage
that's
for
further
sale
south
there.
than I was thinking.
It's been for
Yeah.
sale for quite some time. It'd be interesting. I mean, as we look at the yellow dots, we see them, and then this whole area is.
Yeah, so just to explain the approach to this map, this was to highlight really Fort Union Boulevard's a critical corridor. But to your point, the yellow that's highlighted here is already zoned commercial in some way. Some of it's residential office, it's kind of low scale commercial. What we think would be great to come out of public input at a district specific level is if there are areas that maybe are not commercial today where you see an opportunity for that kind of thing.
Yeah.
As staff, we don't want to lead with that. And if that's not desired by a neighborhood, that's okay. But if your constituents have ideas and are supportive of that, then certainly we can incorporate those ideas.
Yeah.
But given the focus on redevelopment in the Fort Union area, our request is as we continue to refine the draft plan and move toward public engagement. First of all, to the mayor's point, be thinking about what kind of public engagement you'd like to pursue, and we can come back and talk about that. But it would also be really helpful to familiarize yourselves with the Fort Union Boulevard master plan. Even the Parks, Trails and Open Space master plan touches that corridor a lot. And then other studies and plans involving these areas of the city. And what I can do, instead of showing this in this meeting, I can send a link to each of the council members to the webpage where all these adopted plans are posted.
That'd be great.
If any of you would like printed copies, let Tim know. We can certainly do that for you as well.
I think that what you just said is really, really important, Mike. So if we're gonna make educated decisions, I think we need to be as knowledgeable on these master plans as possible.
And we can meet as staff, we can meet with any of you after you've had a chance to review. And if you've got questions and, comments or thoughts, we can go through all of this.
Okay.
So that's,
So this means we've got a vote coming on sleds coming fairly soon, so that's out of the way.
that's the goal. That's the goal. Next meeting, not a vote, but the draft should be back at the next meeting.
So then we'll put that out. And everything will be smooth. All right.
Well, thanks, Mike. That's this is a big undertaking, but it's really, really important. Every one of us ran on, how we want our city to look and feel and how important that is to our constituents. So this is an important thing that we're doing. So thanks. Appreciate it.
Yeah.
The general plan is something that comes up very regularly and very passionately. So not screwing it up is really.
That's the goal. That is the goal.
I mean, you can make little changes if you find out you screwed it up, but it's and what we did all those years ago still comes up. So
In fact, that's our vision statement in the process.
Yeah, don't screw this one.
Please.
Yeah.
In the
Out of this
vernacular.
subtitle.
Well, thank you, Mike. Appreciate it. Don't go anywhere. So item B under our staff reports is going to be a property surplus discussion that has come up. And so we're going to let Mike give some more background on this and have a quick discussion with the council.
Thank you. This is a property 2912 Denmark Drive. This is in the Watson Hollow subdivision. That's the new Ivory development subdivision, kind of off of Bengal Boulevard between Bengal and kind of Danish Road. It was like 25 residential homes, and when they developed it, they went and connected this intersection that you see in the center of your screen. That didn't exist before. It was 2 stub roads, but when they connected that intersection, it left this kind of remnant parcel that's highlighted on the screen. It's like 3,500 square feet, so it's not viable to be a building lot or really anything. And when they platted this subdivision, they just dedicated that parcel to the city. It doesn't serve an open space purpose. It's not a drainage parcel. It doesn't serve any direct public purpose that we've been able to determine. It's just a leftover piece due to the alignment of that intersection.
Couldn't we consider how we can make it a green?
This was one of the ones that was on the.
That house was there and the house to the east was there.
I mean, this is all.
That's all new.
Okay, so I'm just wondering.
Yep.
I was like, why wasn't it out of that house? But that house was there for years.
Yep.
Okay.
Yeah, to answer what I think you were about to ask, Councilmember Rowell, I think I'll get to that point in just a second. So we were approached several weeks ago about the property owner that I believe lives to the east, directly to the east with that sport court that you can see.
That's there.
Yep, that they had said, hey, we kind of do some maintenance on this property and snow removal on the sidewalk and stuff like that. Would the city be interested in selling this property? So I consulted with Shane and we kind of determined it has to go through the surplus process for selling public property. This is a photo of it. It's just landscape rocks. The surplus process, summarized very generally, would start with a city appraisal. We go and appraise the property. If the value is less than $250,000, which that certainly will be, I would
What's the
anticipate.
acreage of that?
3,000 feet.
It's 3,000
A little less
square
than 10.
It's like 0.08 acres or
0.08.
something like that. We would do an appraisal to determine what the appraised market value of that property could be if sold on the market. And then that goes to staff, and I think it goes to the finance department to determine if there's any value of the city, any public use that the city would use that property for and want to retain the property for. The report would come back to the council of the appraised value and city staff's input on that. The council would then decide, do you want to declare this as surplus or not? So Councilmember Burrell, if there was some purpose you wanted to pursue there, that's the step in the process where you would decide, hey, maybe there's a public purpose to this. Let's analyze that before we declare it a surplus. And then the council sets a minimum bid price. It goes to bid and is then sold through the surplus process managed by the finance department. So
That's an open bid process?
yeah, I believe it is. We were approached again, so we thought it was worth bringing this to the council. The only direction we're looking for tonight is if you'd like to even proceed to the appraisal level, that would then lead us to do an appraisal and bring it back to you to talk about it further.
Yeah.
And it's not a vote, it's just.
What are the other options for it? Keep it as it is, sell it. I mean, realistically, what other use is there for that land?
The city could, I mean, you know, if there's some sort of public purpose that you know would be beneficial here, then we could pursue that. But right now it's the sidewalk system is in there. There's good pedestrian connectivity. It really is just a.
Do we actually do any maintenance there?
He will go in and kill weeds. I mean, but the homeowner adjacent,
They do. a
we
lot.
get to it when we can, they take care of it.
And that's
like
the
I said.
homeowner that's
Right.
interested in. it.
So
And then one of
is
the, and then the sidewalk, it is ours, so it is our responsibility, but it's out there in the middle, and so they take care of that as well. So the homeowner's been taking care of it.
So you're saying that this homeowner.
I think it's the other one. It's
one.
one you can't.
By the
see.
yellow sign, yep.
This,
Yeah.
but they don't have to, is that
No,
what
they
you're
don't
saying?
have to, no.
Now, you said it goes out to a bid process. That homeowner would obviously bid on the project. Let's say if it's a Scott's question or statement. If it's an open bid process, someone else buys it, some random person buys that. What could they then do with that land if that homeowner doesn't put it into their fence line?
It's a parcel in the R1A zone that doesn't, it's not an entitled parcel. It doesn't meet any sort of.
So they
viable-
would just feel really cool that they owned that.
Couldn't do
corner.
anything with it, yeah, yeah. You couldn't use it as storage or anything like that.
Storage.
Yeah. Okay.
No,
It certainly has an amazing view. in
Go
the
ahead,
background.
ask the question.
Yeah, yeah.
Well, no, I mean, it's just, I mean, I don't have a problem going and getting an assessment of it. But I probably have to sit and think about, you know. Not with that's not a guarantee that we're going forward, but I guess we have to
Yeah.
spend the funds to actually
I think the next step I would be in favor of as well is getting to that.
appraisal,
Uh-huh.
not an
Appraisal,
assessment,
yeah.
an appraisal. I knew that word was wrong. It just didn't.
If it's worth $1 million, we're selling it.
Yeah. So yeah, you're right. It will cost a little bit to do that appraisal, but then we'll know the value.
Just got finished saying, don't screw it up, and there I went.
Okay, questions? We good with that? So
Yeah, I
we'll-
mean, I'd like to go over and consider if it does have any kind of value. I mean, as we think about more numerous small green spaces, this is awfully small, but I appreciate that we're gonna ponder on this.
This one's already
it
more
would
of
be
a gray
council vote
space.
to get to that. So this is just moving forward to basically seeing what it's worth.
Yeah.
So,
Probably.
okay.
A big longer term one, we just make sure, I mean, there's a pretty clear view on that. Maybe a lot more than's needed there, but.
Perfect. Thank you, Mike.
Thank you.
Okay, item C, we have Chief Pilgrim on with us, hopefully. So we have our Unified Fire Authority Assistant Chief Riley Pilgrim with us, and so he's gonna talk about item C, which is a cooperative agreement for Unified Fire Service Area. Chief, you there?
I'm there. You guys got me all right?
Fire Riley, yeah. So
Awesome.
I'll
Sorry,
turn the time over to you.
Awesome. Well, I apologize for not being able to be there tonight. I'm helping my daughter with her track fundraiser. So I'll kind of walk you through what this next item is, and then we can, if there's any questions, I'd be happy to answer those. But what this is every 5 years, the state of Utah has a signed agreement with them to participate in a cooperative wildfire system. And basically what that is when we accomplish a certain amount of work. So a couple weeks ago, we signed the dollar amount contribution Cottonwood Heights is required to make, which is just under $2,800 or about $2,800. And what this agreement does is when we meet or fulfill our obligation of do mitigation work, maintain a community wildfire protection plan, and then just a few other requirements the fire department must do. The state of Utah will step in and cover any fire-related expenses that are on non-federal land. So if you have fire on a private property or state land, or even city land that we have to call in resources for, the state of Utah will cover the cost of that. So tonight, the agreement that's before you is just renewing that. And this time they're doing an 18-month term, so they have a few enhancements to the CWH program that they're working on that will be available probably at the start of 2025. And that's when we'll be asked to look at the agreement again and re-sign it. But this is a great benefit to Cottonwood Heights in regards to the state of Utah stepping up to the plate and covering any fire-related costs as long as we're putting our end of the deal as well. So it's an awesome opportunity for us to get involved with mitigation work and wildfire prevention, but B, just have the state step in and cover anything that is related to those wildfire costs if that happens. So I'm definitely open to any questions, or if there's any thoughts or other with this, I'd be happy to take those.
Sounds like every city probably does this, right, Charlie?
Yeah, that is correct. So any city in the state of Utah who wants to participate in this has an agreement in place. And so for us, anyone who's a member of UFSA, UFA is the one who kind of signs the contract on their behalf. For the cities who are direct members, they still maintain that opportunity themselves to sign that. And so throughout the state, most cities have done this. And if any haven't, they're trying to get them on board right now. So.
Any questions for Chief Pilgrim?
No.
Okay,
Well, land fire guys are,
yeah, they're amazing.
and we definitely need their cooperation and help.
Yeah.
Yeah. And the nice thing about our match this year is we've already met it, I believe, with the project work that we did about 2 weeks ago in Crestwood Park. So the contribution that Cottonwood Heights has at $2,800 or so has been met by the work the fuels crew has done. So we've already fulfilled that part of the obligation. And then Chief Brennan and I visit the CWP pretty regularly. And as long as we maintain that, we're covered on our end and we fulfilled our obligations. So.
Perfect. Well, thanks, Chief. I don't know.
You're welcome.
I don't know if we're gonna make you stick around while you're there, but look like you've got better things to do. So
I don't know. City council might be more fun than this. But no, I miss you guys, and I'll jump on at 7 o'clock for the business meeting. So
thanks, Chief. Appreciate you. Okay.
Awesome. You're welcome. Thank you.
So and then that's one of the items we'll be voting on this evening. So item D is our last staff report for today, and it's a Butlerville Days event update discussion. So we've got some things to talk about. So we're grateful to have Ann Etcho, who's our culture manager, here to kind of lead us in that discussion. So you've been a little bit busy, Ann, I think.
I've been just a little bit busy because I'm dealing with the play at the same time, and I hope that you all come and see the play.
Yeah. So that runs through this week.
Yeah, it will end on Saturday.
Saturday,
So
yeah.
we've got,
From that day on Saturday
no,
too?
just,
Strictly the
yeah,
7
7 PM, Thursday, Friday, and Saturday.
And I'm gonna give a plug. I've attended it and it's great. They do a great job. We've got a lot of talents in the community.
Yeah, the community talent is wonderful. The
Yeah.
costumes and the set, it's just all good.
Yeah, perfect.
Okay, so I'll go into Butlerville Days. I just counted and I didn't really want to do that, but we were 16 days away. I've been trying to avoid to do that, but I thought I'd give it a try. Excited for this year. I'm getting a lot of feedback from the residents that how excited everybody is in coming. I'll just start off a little bit on and just kind of brief you a few things that's going on. And if you have any questions, you can ask me. So Thursday night, I took your advice from last year, and I've been really campaigning this and writing out Thursday, Friday and Saturday. So everything that you see out that I'm hoping that goes out is it says the 27th, 28th and 29th, because one of the concerns you had from residents, they didn't realize it was on Thursday. So I'm really putting those dates out there. So people, when they see it. Thursday night, is family night for the carnival. All rides are $1. So that is kind of you do have to buy the little card, which is a couple of dollars, but all the rides will be $1. Painting in the Park, that is sponsored by the Arts Council. It sold out, which didn't really sell out, but closed because it's free in 2.5 days. It was full.
Is that the sidewalk?
Painting in the Park is where we go in and we actually follow a local artist
Got it.
and they do a painting.
Cool.
So that's, we have 130 something people are signed up. Yeah, it's a wonderful, wonderful fun
Do
event.
they all have big hair?
Yeah. They're doing it, yeah.
Bob.
Yep.
So that was kind of fun that I just had a feeling I better go check it. And I was like, wow, okay, we're a little over. And it's okay. We'll make do.
Yeah.
Again, the walking tour, historic walking tour, if you have never done it, this one is new. This one, last year they had it here and they did it around here. This one is up at the, I don't know what that's called, the park and ride up there at the Cottonwood Canyon, and you walk down. So you're gonna walk east.
That's on Thursday, what time?
That is on Thursday
6:30.
at 6:30, yeah.
Okay.
They're starting,
Saturday.
And then a Saturday one,
they're starting at the park and ride
at the mouth of the canyon.
at the mouth of the canyon and going down.
And then going
trail.
down underneath the trail, yes,
Okay.
yes, so that will be a little different, and what they'll be talking about. And then again on Saturday, in the morning, at 9 a.m. So.
I'll definitely give a plug for that. It was incredible
It was
last
really
year.
good. Dale did an awesome job.
Yeah, both Gail
Yeah.
and-
And Rona,
and Ronna Cohen,
Ronna.
yeah, it's fantastic.
fun history, to learn about it. And then in Friday, kind of the yoga with yogurt starting, kicking off the morning at 7. Chalk contest is when that starts in on Friday and it goes through until Saturday evening.
Where's the yoga gonna take place, right?
It is
In the
in-
carnival area?
It is back right behind the rec center in the trees.
Okay.
We kind of, you'll just, if you go to it, you'll just kind of walk behind the rec center and you'll just see them set up. The chalk art contest, we have been doing that behind the school. This year, we've decided to try doing it down in the little water catch area and where the basketball courts are, yeah. We're gonna try something a little different. That behind it, the event is getting so large that people are walking back on that sidewalk and stepping over art and stepping over people. So we're gonna try a little different area and see how that works.
We figure out how many people they can get in that area. Or
I
that's
did,
still-
but I cannot remember,
Okay.
but I think it was a bigger number than we've had. So I think we're gonna be good.
If we're not gonna throw watermelons on it, we might as well at least
Yeah.
decorate it.
Yeah. Then, the event will open at 4 vendor booths. We've got quite a few different vendors coming in for the merchandise and craft. I've actually closed it because it was getting too full. And so
More
first time
than last
ever.
year.
Yeah, well, I could, well, probably about close to what we had last year. I wouldn't go more than that. And I mean, I could fill the whole park full of people, but we won't do that. Inflatable bounce attractions start at 4. Again, they are free. I love having that event free for people. And new is the 9, it's actually 2 9-hole miniature golfs. So you get,
Where's that gonna go?
it will go, I don't have a map. It is scheduled to go. When you're, yeah, there's the map up there. So you take the sidewalk up and then go up and it's right next to the carnival at the top.
Oh, okay.
So that's kind of the gist of where it's gonna go, but sometimes depending on how far out the carnival goes, we've moved things, but we're gonna try and push them back again this year.
I don't see it. Where is
We're
it
at the very top. There, you've got the restrooms up there
Golf flag.
Yeah.
and then.
Well, if you get the
Oh,
miniature
you can
golf
see it.
course,
Oh, this one's a little bit better.
Oh, is that right? Oh, I see it.
Well,
I
we
can
have,
tell
so
it.
it's an 18, course, but what we did is cut it in half, so it's 9 and 9, so that the lines will go
Do
faster.
we charge for that?
No, it's
No.
free. Yeah, right. Kinder Care Craft is, will be out on the field too. It's by Discovery Champions after school program. They work with the Kenyon School District and do their after school events at the schools. And so we brought them in, kind of a partnership, and they will have some fun activities for little kids. So, and then the big change on Friday is the car show. We have moved it Friday night instead of Saturday. That is our biggest change this year. We are trying to get the word out. I have a brand new production crew coming in, our DJ, really getting the word out on, he did Taylorsville Days and he's been doing that for a while. He's going to do ours, and he took flyers over there and is giving them out. So I think we're going to have a new some new cars. It's always good to change out your production after a while, because we'll have some different cars there. And I think it's going to be really large.
Yeah. So how many cars have signed up? How do we know?
We don't sign anyone up.
You
We
don't
just do
sign
it
anyone,
as
they
they
just
come
do
in.
it. Okay.
Mhm. Yeah,
Okay.
if we got full, we would just close up.
Okay.
But we've never filled that.
Drafts fill up though. I
Yeah, yeah.
have a hard time filling up.
But I mean, we've had hundreds before.
I think
And we do have the
correct.
mayor award.
Yeah.
So we will need you
So
there
it'll
about
be hot,
8:15.
Which
Yeah.
would be nice.
Yeah.
I mean, it'll.
Yeah, that was the biggest complaint in the past, is Saturday is just, having it from noon on, is just too hot to go and for them to be out there. So this is something we're gonna give it a try, but we've had great feedback from the car community. And very excited, and nothing else is going on that day. So just another bonus for us to get those cars in. Then of
What was
course,
the time from that again?
6 to 8:30.
6 to
Awards
8:30.
are at 8:15-ish, right around there. Yeah, so we just have to pick yours before the awards and give it to the Mike, who's running it.
Okay.
And then the dog show at 10 o'clock, which we're again, excited for. We'll see how that goes this year.
Don't we have stage entertainment?
Yes, we do have stage entertainment, which starts at 5:30 to 10. The main band is called The Current. They are
High energy party band.
high energy party.
Matt,
That is quite the description.
Yeah.
It's got Matt written
Is
all
there a
over it.
mayor's dance portion? to that? A question I have, and I don't want to dive deep into this, and we can maybe after this year's Butlerville Days is over, but I'd love to talk about carnival rides and understand their processes and safety records and all that fun stuff.
So on the carnival, there is actually a new law from the state of Utah that they have to be inspected. And that has, so the state of Utah is actually really looking and diving into all of that. So,
That was the process I was most interested in.
Yeah.
Is without any assurances, I have yet to put my kids on those things yet, so.
yeah,
So
there's a lot of people that, but the state of Utah is, any movement, any rides with movement, they are now requiring inspections and things like that, not just for carnivals. So they've been doing their.
And I'm guessing since we're in July, that law would have gone into effect.
It was like 2-3 years ago that they started building it, and I think, we kind of looked into it. I think it went into effect this year,
Mhm.
that they were being inspected.
Yeah, when we first had the
Right.
carnival out there, we had the same questions, and it was kind of like, it was a wild.
So do they provide you with the certificate that they have been inspected?
They will have it, yeah.
So the state will have to come and inspect them after.
No,
they set up?
the state inspects them once a year,
Oh, got it.
when they first set up. So that the carnival actually has to pay, and then they have to go and tell them, and they have to work it out. And there's only certain inspectors with the state of Utah that are authorized to do the inspection.
Okay.
So it's an entire committee or it's with the state that is looking over all of them.
We also require them to be significantly insured.
Yeah, and they're,
Good,
and our
good,
insurance.
good, good.
Yeah.
But they
Gotcha.
are, but the state is being, there was an entire panel, Lagoon was on it, and one of the carnival grounds amusement person was on it. So there was an entire panel that it went into law in effect. And I think it actually went in this year. I think was waiting 1 year because there's some funding that had to happen for that department. So it's an entire department that is doing
Do
it
you know what
now.
department oversees it?
I will have to look into that and get
Okay,
back with
I
you
will-
on that. It's been a while since I've thought about it.
Very good, thanks.
Did we get a sponsor for the blow up rides? Specific sponsor for that?
No, not for the blow up light, yeah, no.
Because those used to charge, but we've been able to move those to a free activity.
And still keep within our budget.
I mean,
yes.
yeah, one of the things we've always tried to do at Butlerville Days is to make it family friendly. There's plenty of things you can do if you want to come and not spend money, but there's also things you can, I mean, there's always been food. There's other things that if you want to go and do extra, the car show, the mini golf, we had mini golf, I think one other time. But just be able to come and do and have fun without
Yeah.
having to feel obligated. Obviously, if you have smaller children and they see carnival rides, you either have to convince them that the blow-ups are the way to go or spend the money, but that's,
Yeah, so the
I
whole,
think people expect
yeah,
that.
the committee really strives to make it a fun family event that's affordable. And that's just kind of how we describe it. The carnival you pay for, the food vendors you pay for, and if you buy any merchandise.
So,
And everything else.
go ahead.
And I think one of the things that really helps is having the police and the fire. I know it's been a long-standing thing. You don't get the Butlerville Days off in the police department, but having those guys there, walking around, people go up, they talk to them, they say hi and do all the other things, but just before anything starts, they're usually able to get there and get a few minor things we've had, they've been able to address, so it's not a big issue.
Yeah.
And,
Police presence
It's
as important as what we do.
you know, the first aid tent that the fire department always puts on, you know, and the kids love the badges and stickers and hats and whatever.
So to go backwards, so Department of Transportation is the committee
Yeah,
that
yeah,
oversees it, and then it went into effect this March. And I know it says, it looks like they do a safety check per day. So they've got to be certified, and then every single day before going into,
they have to
they
do
do
it.
it per day safety
Yeah,
check. That's
the
good.
carnival has
That's
to
a
go in
huge
and do it.
increase.
Yeah, yeah,
Improvement, I mean.
yeah. From what, there was no
Correct,
standards
yeah.
beforehand,
Mhm.
yeah.
Good.
And I wanna pickleball costs, so I didn't throw that in the cost. You have to pay for pickleball, so, but everything else is, there's no charge.
Including the mayor.
Oh,
The
Yes.
what? Are you?
No exceptions. You
Okay, so-
pay for
Well, the
embarrassment.
mayor's up, but I still have to pay,
Well,
so
we're really teamed up with this year.
I actually haven't chosen them yet.
He's very selective.
I've got auditions.
You gotta try it, yeah.
No, my partner was Thurman and he's out of town.
Oh, he's out of
It's whoever
town.
pays his fee.
Yeah, yeah, Molly. My son.
Yeah.
But have you already filled up all is the pickleball?
It's not
tournament
closed yet,
already-
as far, because Rec Center deals with it, and Bonnie over there has not told me it's been closed yet. But I think it's probably getting.
And does that run Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, that whole week, right?
It starts on the 18th and goes through the 28th, so they have a schedule. how they do it.
18th.
Yeah, starts on the
18th.
18th and goes all the way.
Whatever classification is just one day though.
Yeah, yeah,
Oh, you
yeah,
only play your one day.
yeah,
Yeah,
they have it the way they have it scheduled over there.
okay.
Their
Darn it, I
recreation
want to do
center.
that again this year, but I don't know if I can squeeze it in. I gotta find out where I fit in the old masters somewhere. No.
And then we move into Saturday with the high fitness aerobics. It's almost getting bigger than the yoga, and that's just right there on the stage. Then we chalk art contest, people can come back and work on their artwork, historic walking tour, Butlerville Days Parade. I
You
will
want us
need
there at-
to get you there between 10 and 10:30 would be wonderful. If you're a little later than that, fine, we start at 11, so I need to get you there.
Can I say I love it?
It's recommend that you get there early because
Early,
getting up
yeah.
Bengal Boulevard just doesn't really work when it's cold.
Ride your bicycle.
Well, you could do that, but that's uphill and I don't.
I love that we have a great partner like Trader Joe's that does the high
You
fitness
said-
aerobics.
At what time you want to say 10 to 10:30?
Yeah, yeah, around there would be.
10:30, you're gonna, they're gonna. get
10:30, I'm-
really
yeah,
nervous.
yeah.
Okay, all right.
10:30, I get a little start to panic where you're at and where, if I need to go find you or send the police to go get you, get you up on that float. Again, we'll stick, if you're throwing candy, just a reminder, need to walk it. We want to be as safe as possible with when throwing or
Handing it out.
tossing, very gently handing candy out. We just want to be as safe as possible.
I know we made a big emphasis with that last year. There was a tragedy that happened in
Couple years, yeah.
Kaysville last year.
Yeah, it's,
It's
so easy not to throw it far enough and the kids will
they'll
chase
run up to
candy.
the cars close.
Yeah,
So
yeah.
you can't throw it if you're on a car or
Anything
anything
moving,
moving. So somebody walking it can.
Yeah, we ask that you try to get it past the line, get it back out to them.
And then we've made that emphasis with them again, with everybody that'll do it. We'll
Yes,
do that
everybody
that
that's
morning.
coming again.
Okay.
And the email will go out to all of our parade participants and we'll remind them again at the event, that we just.
We
want
have
to
a
say-
brute squad enforcing that.
From
They're
Princess
they're
Bride.
very, yeah.
Why don't I talk just for a minute
Oh,
about the
yeah,
parade? So we've had historically last year, because of what the mayor mentioned in Kaysville. By the way, I've had multiple conversations with the city manager about this. We even had a presentation at one of our city manager conferences about safety with the parade. That's our number one priority, especially with the parade, but with all of Butlerville Days, is safety. And so we made modifications to our parade guidelines last year to emphasize that safety element. And those are still in place and we will emphasize those specifically. One of the other things that I wanted to just mention real quickly is we had a conversation historically related to campaigning in parades. Every year that we've had the Butlerville Days parade, we've kind of focused on more of hometown community feel, and the campaigning side of things is not something that has been part of the parade. People that are running for office can walk along the sidewalk, but not be part of the parade. And on April 4th, we had some conversation about that, but really didn't have a decision on that because of some issues with ranked choice voting and other things. And so the Butlerville Days Committee met again and wants to keep it status quo this year and reevaluate that. So at this point, we're looking at, there won't be any campaigning or things like that as part of the parade. And we keep the status quo with the parade guidelines from the previous years at this point. And so that's kind of where we're at this point, emphasizing safety.
Well, I think we came to a consensus. I mean, the committee brought that forward and all the council was, I believe, as I recall, unanimous
That
in
was not the
supporting it.
case. Absolutely not.
I remember we stopped because of voting methods. I thought voting methods was a concern for us because people wouldn't file. And then I think it just got left because of all the things that ended up happening.
Yeah,
right
there
after that.
were
But I don't
other
think
things.
we did come. to a
Well, there's been
consensus.
candidates that have already signed up to be in the parade. So
Yes.
are they gonna be notified they
So-
cannot
so what-
participate?
Yeah, what we'll do is we'll send out a notification to all the candidates and make them aware of what the guidelines are. They still can do like you probably have done in the past is go along the sidewalk. That's still fine to do that. But as far as being in the parade, that's where.
Well,
we're
may
at
I
right
just
now.
point out, I think it needs to be pointed out that the two incumbents will be on a float and those challengers in District 1 and 2 will now have no presence in the parade, whereas they have been led to believe that they would have a presence in the parade.
Well, they were led to believe that. It certainly didn't come from,
It came from the committee. They signed up.
no, I don't want to argue. I've had this discussion virtually every year since we started Butlerville Days, and we've always come to the same conclusion. What we've had a problem recently is where sitting elected officials have ignored the guidance to keep it being, this is who you are, and you can wave to people and stuff, and created a campaigning entry out of their thing, and that's always been not.
Well, and that's not allowed though, right?
It's not allowed, but
Guidelines?
that's happened anyway.
Okay.
And we had an incident also where a candidate kind of put themselves in a situation where it kind of looked like they were involved because they weren't where they should have been on the sidewalk. And so I think there needs to be a little more emphasis on that type of enforcement, so everyone's treated fairly. I've always looked at it like they do the days of 47. You've got a car, you've got one sign, you can wave to people, but that's it. I certainly don't think there would be any reason that there would be a campaign sign or a vote for me or anything like that during the parade. So, and I still feel that way. That's the way, at least through my years, that's always the reason we've had, and I have not wavered from that opinion.
Well, I continue with my objection to this because it was brought forward in a previous council meeting and there was support for it. The committee, the Butlerville Days Committee indicated that they wanted that, and now there's a reversal. And
It was put off.
I just think this, in my opinion, what, is going to be viewed as,
Those have been always the rules. We never allowed for.
I know, but it
candidates or
changed
vote
this
for-
spring. It
It
changed in the
didn't,
meeting.
it never changed. Those
We can
are
go back
still
to the
rules.
minutes and watch, but I'm positive that we
The
didn't
decision was
make a
postponed.
decision. It was
The
postponed.
decision
So-
was postponed.
If
This is,
that's wrong,
this
we
is
can
what I put on the page because I didn't have clear guidance. Is I wrote that the Butlerville Days Committee is reviewing the parade guidelines to ensure they are consistent with the hometown feeling required and clearly explaining the safety requirements. We will add these to the page soon. Parade entries contingent on these guidelines. Once we have established the guidelines, we will contact you by email or phone if you do not meet the committee's criteria. I've had that on there but I had to open up the parade application and I usually put it on the parade application, but I didn't have guidelines to do it because of the ranked choice and you didn't make a final decision at that time. So I have this on here.
And the Butlerville Days Committee had a conversation about it at their last meeting and said that they agreed that the status quo should probably be in place this year, like it's been every year for the last 20+ years or whatever that we've had Butlerville Days. Once again, candidates can go along the sidewalks, which is what candidates have done forever. And they can do that. But as far as a presence in the parade, that's not anything new. We've had conversations every election year.
It wasn't my idea. I'm saying that the committee was the ones that brought it
Yeah.
forward. So, okay, I won't be redundant, but.
You're right. They
it
did
was-
bring that forward, but they also looked at it last month because there was no decision or direction on that. And they said, why don't we keep the status quo at this point? Correct me if I'm wrong, and then we'll reevaluate it next year. There's still a lot that would need to occur as far as if the council's direction was to allow that, we would still need to put some parameters around that. I've been in other parades. In fact, recently I've talked to individuals from cities that have had candidates in parades and they've had concerns that they've been doing that because of the lack of parameters. And so I think the Butlerville Days Committee would want to weigh in more on what parameters you put on that and bring that forth potentially next year. But right now we're looking at status quo unless the council gives us different direction.
I mean, that was the first part of April. We did have a significant event in April that changed things, with the council.
My recollection is we wanted to know if we were going to ring towards voting because people wouldn't have filed yet. And so we went, remember?
Yeah, and I know that was, for me, that wasn't as big of an issue because I was.
Yeah. I know we didn't come to a resolution.
I'm still
Yeah.
sitting back on my vision of, and my purpose with Butlerville Days is to keep it as not a vote for me. It's I'm Scott. I'm, District 2. This is who I am. If you don't know my face, you wave to me and then I'm done. Now that being said, in other years that I've run, and I've certainly seen people put on t-shirts, they put on buttons, or they do whatever, and they go over to Butlerville Days and they talk to people, and I expect that that's completely, that will happen. Yeah, I'd be surprised if it didn't. I certainly will be over there talking to people, but I have a hard time sometimes crossing the fields because people want to talk.
Perfect.
to that end, irrespective of whether it's a political person or event or whatever, if they're not a registered entry into the parade, we have no intention of allowing anybody to disrupt or enter onto the roadway or enter into the procession.
Yeah.
And we will keep them out. Is that your understanding as well?
Yeah.
We'll ask them to go onto the sidewalk. Anybody can walk along the sidewalk.
Well, sidewalk's fine, I'm just.
Yeah.
I think-
We've had people come onto the pathway before and disturb it.
But it's when you get into the roadway or the area that we're closing off for the parade, that's,
It's a closed event, so.
that was Shane's good education on what constitutes a public square, public forum.
Do you have more, Ann, to go through?
Let's see, again, the miniature golf, so I hope everyone has a chance to do the miniature golf. It's open back in on Saturday. The crafts, more food, carnival rides, ice skating on Saturday from 1 to 3.
Which is new.
No, we've had ice skating. Yeah,
We do,
yeah, we've had ice skating both days. They cut it down one, yeah. Just, and stage entertainment starting at 2, and then the fireworks show. And so I think it's, I'm excited, fun event.
Stage entertainment on Saturday is
Shuffle,
a shuffle. The
Yeah.
same as Friday? Or no, that's different.
Friday.
yeah, the current is, yeah, and then shuffle
Current,
on,
and then
yeah.
shuffle. Okay,
Yeah.
perfect. Okay, well, as always, we really appreciate what you do. This is a big, huge event and you're on top of it and it's amazing actually, all that you do and
It's a
your
lot.
staff and.
18 food vendors, just so you know,
18
usually you
food
guys
vendors.
ask me.
Yeah.
You have to list, because I usually get asked.
there's always plenty until about 8:30.
Can we ask
45.
Iceberg to figure out how their lines can move faster?
Iceberg did not register in time this year.
You're kidding.
They did not. I do have a couple. I have actually two of my my vendors are with ice cream are actual residents. So
Oh, even better.
yeah.
Awesome.
But anyway, yeah, they didn't make it past the they're
that
like,
was the
oh, we're
longest
so sorry.
line.
But they are a really long line. Yes, they are.
I'm sure this is not that fun for you,
Yeah.
but for everyone else that has a great time, thanks.
Well, I want to thank
Actually, it's a lot of fun for me.
Okay, good.
I
Well,
love
even
it.
better then.
our police put in a lot of overtime
yeah.
for this event.
And
our
public
fire
works,
department.
public fire, yeah, I couldn't do it with.
The whole
everybody.
city participates.
I'm sorry, Matt, I
Yeah.
did not call you out,
Thank you.
I'm fine.
but your guys don't walk around the park and I don't, as public works guys, they just do everything behind the scenes to make sure it's fun for everybody else. With the
Job
just as
to not be
important.
known.
So we're gonna move along so we can get into our
I know who you are.
Thank
next
in trouble.
meeting, but so the item 4 is just a review of calendars and upcoming events. July 13th to the 15th, which we talked about, is the Guys and Dolls musical, so it only goes through the end of this week. If you get a chance, please go. Obviously, Butlerville Day is the 27th to the 29th. August 12th from 11 to 1 is the Autism Council of Utah Lunch with the Cops event. Chief, is that a first we've done that, or have we done that before?
We've done it before.
Okay,
Last year,
last year.
first year, right?
August 14th from 6 to 8 is the Meet the Candidates event at the City Hall Community Room. We did that last cycle. You know, I participated and we'll look forward to meeting all of the candidates. And August 26th is,
And that's set up to be the tables, people come and talk to you, not
yes,
Correct,
no boxing gloves.
correct.
August
Go ahead,
26th,
Matt.
9:30 to noon is the Bark in the Park at Mountain View Park, which is, I went to and was such a cool thing last year. August 31st from 4 to 7 is the community block party at City Hall. So that time also is tentative, 4 to 7. So we do not have a closed session scheduled for today, so I'll accept a motion this time to close our work session and enter into our scheduled CDRA meeting at 5:30.
It was in the other room, by the way.
We're gonna go in the other room.
Motion to close this session and transition over.
Second that.
Second, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Thank you.